Okay, that's fine. Well, the thing is, Kristen, and I really don't want to get distracted by things like height and safety and all that, because that's not really my primary concern as far as I'm concerned. And I am, by the way, the Parks Director. I'm kind of on loan over here at City Hall, which is why I haven't been involved in the conversations as of yet, so I apologize for that. But the thing is, and I'm sorry to use the e-news page, but it's the only drawing I have, it's just this simple. This is the bench that was submitted. This is the one that was approved. It's that simple. This is not what was built.
All I can say to clarify that, and this is what I've told many people, is that that was not submitted as a final drawing. That's something I submitted to Eric Smith months before we started the bench project, and it was an example of what I was thinking of doing. He said, that sounds great, let's work together. And over the next few months, we developed plans for how this was going to be built. And when it came time to actually start, I said, hey, do you want any final plans? And he said, you know what, I think verbally we agreed on stuff and we know what's going on. And I was never asked to submit final plans. So that's being publicized as being something final I submitted, but in reality it was just an example of what I was going to be building.
Well, and the problem is, of course, is that this didn't get pushed up the chain. You know, no one was aware that we were deviating from the original drawing. And again, I apologize.
I think what she's saying, though, is that the original drawing wasn't a drawing submitted as the actual bench.
Right.
It was an example of what a Shatori bench was.
I understand that, but at no point did an actual drawing of what was intended get brought to anyone else's attention. And that's where the problem is. Because this is all we had to go on. This was fine. This was approved. It's as simple.
Right. And my understanding was all I had to do was go through the Parks and Recs, and I didn't understand. I mean, nobody told me anything about it.
Right. And that's our fault. And I apologize for that. It was a little more, there's more to this when you come into a government domain, whether it's a building or a park or something like that. It's not just a matter of just saying, go make it happen. I mean, there's, in fact, just so y'all know, right now with the centennial coming up, the 100-year celebration of the state, there's a mural being proposed for the side of the building. Well, this is a historical building. You can't, she's already sort of outlined it. It's got to go through the preservation committee. I mean, things just aren't that simple, and there's a lot more to it than just verbal. And I apologize that an employee misled you. I really do. That he thought that was, because that's not all that there is to it. And there needs to be, and in fact, Tim, I think, has gotten together some forms now. I believe he gave you one last week, the project approval form, because we do have to have documentation, and it does have to have approval all the way up the chain, and it did not go through the channels, and I'm very sorry about that.
Right, and I'm perfectly willing to go through those channels at this point, and I have pictures of exactly how this was built, and I can show you, we can drop some plans to show you exactly how it was built, pay any late fines for any late permits or whatever. I'm totally willing to go through those chains, but I think at this point, the idea of, I don't know if you're suggesting that we tear it down or redo it.
Well, what I'm telling you is, I would have signed off on this. I would sign off on this today. And I believe last Tuesday you said you would revert to this, you would go back to this in a meeting?
No.
Larger tiles. Get rid of the small tiles that are surrounding it.
Well, that was one of the issues were concerning safety and maintenance, and then I consulted with people such as Mary Schulte and Juanita Hall Carlson and other tile setters in Prescott, and they said that actually those wouldn't be issues with this. There are a few tiles, yes, we do have to remove due to them being really jagged. Either we can sand them down or just pop them off, but overall they said there's no reason to remove all the tiles because this can be safe and maintainable and functional as soon as we grout it and sand it down.
Well, and again, and I understand what you're saying, but this is all I'm willing to sign off on. This one right here.
Okay, now the bench is already built. Do you have issues that it's not going to be sturdy or that it's not going to be safe? Right now?
This didn't, well, this is not what was agreed on, and I understand that there was...
She's actually disagreeing with you about the agreement, and not only that, but in the 7 weeks the project was being done, people from the Parks and Rec Department stopped by and told her what a great job she was doing, how wonderful it was, and so I guess the thing is now the bench is built, and what you're saying is you want her to tear it down because the Parks and Rec Department did not go through their channels. I mean, this is a college student. She built a bench. She was, every step of the way, the Parks and Rec Department was okay with it and encouraged her until there was a complaint about the content of the tiles that are on the bench. Okay, at that point, all of a sudden, the safety issues of what she was building became paramount.
And that's not at all what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I haven't mentioned safety. I'm not concerned
Yes.
about the safety.
I've been trying to get your attention so I could speak. I didn't want to interrupt you. I want to know exactly what is the problem with what she did. I mean, I understand what you're saying. You wanted a specific outline and everything, and nobody told her this is what you need to do. This is the exact
I apologize
thing.
for that.
She's a civilian. Okay, you were a government worker. Okay, in order for a project to go through, it should be made black and white for the civilians, you know,
Yeah.
myself. I'm here to speak for him because when you're dead and gone, he's going to see it. Correct? I want to become a teacher to help the children of his age, you know, become the next generation. And I see no problem with it as a parent.
Let me just...
And I want to know, what exactly is the problem with the bench? I mean, if you can say exactly what the big issue is about it. I mean, it's already built and everything. And I understand that you're saying that it's not exactly this, which she never promised that it would be this.
It's the only drawing that was submitted.
Yes,
And I'm saying, my problem is, it's not this drawing. It's not, I would sign off on this. This is a traditional bench that I would put in any park, in any government park.
What about the obelisk that's on the back side of the park?
Well, that went through a process, and that was approved. If this is what we wanted, it didn't go through. That's where I apologize, Kristen. We didn't give you the right direction that you needed to go through. And if it had ended up like this, we wouldn't be sitting here now. And it wouldn't have been an issue, even though it should have been. I mean, there should always be a process. We didn't follow it, and I am sorry about that.
Right, and I appreciate your apology, and I understand what you're saying, that the proper channels weren't gone through, and it wasn't my fault because I wouldn't have been able to know. But you're asking us to take down 7 or 8 weeks worth of work just because it didn't go through the proper channels, and that feels extreme. And I think what Daniel's trying to ask is, if this was the project that was submitted, why would you have not approved it?
I would have approved it. If this was submitted, I would have approved it.
I'm saying if we had drawings for what the final project looks like now.
Exactly. If it was what it looks like, and it was right there on that paper.
Well, I would have pushed it further up the chain. Just like right now, the mural on the side of the building is going to go to a preservation committee. Because when you come to these kind of things, look, you got to understand about the government. You know, when you put things in to a public domain, whether it's a park or a building, you need to put something in that's going to appeal to the masses. Government's not looking for controversy, okay?
Well,
the way you do that, if I can finish, the way you do that is you put in traditional things. Traditional things don't generate controversy, and you don't get into the, unfortunately, you can't put the eclectic or the unique or because the general masters just want basic, functional. Yes, please go ahead. I will stop talking now.
Actually, about the whole traditional thing. I'm a pagan priest. My traditions go way beyond a lot of people. And it would piss off a lot of Christians in this town if I went and resurrected a sun symbol, which is commonly known as a swastika. If I had a big pagan sun symbol out in front of my house, that would piss off a lot of people. And that is tradition.
Okay, by tradition, I'm talking about a cement block with 4 legs. That's it. That's what I mean by traditional. Government is not known for creativity, and there's a reason for that. That's what I'm talking about.
I would say that the Endowment for the Arts totally disagrees with you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, just to clarify what you're saying then, your issue isn't necessarily with the structure, the function, or the safety. It's with the content that's on the bench.
It's not the drawing. That's my issue. If it's not the drawing, and if it had gone through the proper channels, which is not your fault, then we would have resolved this, and you wouldn't have had 8 weeks of work in it that I'm now asking you to consider. I mean, I need it to revert, or we need to talk about taking it out.
Right.
Or what's our compromise? What's the solution to this? How do we resubmit? Where do we go from here to work together?
Right, and that's exactly what you've got the form, and the next one, you've got this form,
I think maybe
proposed project
drop a
form, and the
petition.
next one.
Just to get
Okay.
signatures to leave it
And
exactly
it looks
how
like
it
you've
is.
got one. You've got your project, but I need, I guess.
Well, what I started filling this out and realized I couldn't fit all the proposals for the revisions on this piece of paper, and that's why I typed up the document that you have there that addresses all the issues that were brought up by Joe Baines in his email, which I have a copy of.
Right, but the issues aren't what I need from you. I need a thorough description of what the content is on this bench. That's what would need to be evaluated.
What do you mean by content? The actual images of the mosaics
of
that
course,
the community...
Of course, that's what I mean.
So that is the issue that's
That is
brought
the
up
issue
now.
for you then. It's what's
No,
the
I'm just saying that a description
No,
includes
please.
that.
I mean,
Can we
okay,
submit
but...
pictures with it?
That'd be great.
Okay.
I
That'd
mean,
be
we
great.
can submit, and then if
Honestly, I
you
think
don't
our
like the
problem is the
content, then you're going to
bureaucracy.
tear this piece of artwork down? Is that what you're saying?
Well, if it doesn't ultimately get approval, then it's not something that can stay in a public park. But we didn't get the correct information on what's being put in that public park. So I'm asking for it now. Okay?
And here's the thing, this is what you submitted, whether it's a rough draft,
Preliminary, whatever.
But that's what you led us, and whoever, to believe that's what it was gonna be like. They
I didn't
submitted
lead
something.
anybody. That wasn't even submitted as a first draft. That was submitted as an example, and I didn't actually realize that Eric had kept a copy of it. I probably did submit it to him, but like I said, that was my very, very first meeting with Eric Smith, and I said, hey, I'm thinking of building something like this in the park. Would you approve something like this? And he said, absolutely. But that wasn't submitted as what I was going to build. It was an example. I drew that months before we started the project, and like I said, Eric and I worked really closely together on coming up with the design. I told him about the backrest, how we're going to build it using sandbags. We're going to use sand from the creek. He helped, Eric Smith and Rudy helped us pick out the tree to build it under.
Right.
And they
right.
were watching us.
Which would have been no problem. I've got no problem with a bench being around a tree in Granite Creek Park.
Right, and what we're
There's no
saying
issue.
too.
So are you having an issue with the backrest now? Because the only difference between that drawing and the bench is the backrest.
No,
And the
there's
size of the tiles.
there's a pretty major difference between this drawing and this bench. This is just functional tiles. This isn't. No offense. It's just this isn't the work of art that this one is. This is a functional. That's what I'm talking about. We put blocks of cement with 4 legs in. We're just trying to give people a place to sit. That's what this is.
And then it became a functional piece of art. I mean, it became a piece of art inadvertently. We admit that. What happened was she was putting the tile mosaics, and she asked people, when people came and said, what are you doing? She said, well, I'm, putting a mosaic on this bench, and, would you like to help? And so, yes, it was an inadvertent piece of public art, which is like a magical thing, and maybe you should consider preserving it. I mean, instead of saying, because of these issues that the Parks and Rec didn't quite carry the ball on, you might have to tear this down, say, this happened inadvertently, and it was kind of magical the way it happened, the way the community got involved in it, and so let's see what we can do to preserve it.
I hear what you're saying, but don't you agree that was misleading the city all along? You're saying
No,
that,
it was not.
How was that not misleading?
Because
when this was submitted,
misleading.
and you just said that it was sort of got created as we went along.
Right, so how can she be misleading you? Because she did not do that on purpose. It became an inadvertent...
Because she never...
And the
accidental
other thing
piece
too
of
is
art.
that this was out in the open. We didn't cover it up at night. It was out there for 7 weeks.
No,
We've been
I-
checked on regularly.
And I haven't been there, unfortunately, in 7 weeks. I
Right,
didn't
and-
see it.
And what I'm
But the
gonna say
people
is
that work for you were there, and they
didn't-
approved
But
it.
they didn't have that authority. And that's where I apologize, that we did not put her through the proper channels. That's our fault,
But
and I
now it
apologize.
exists, and the community likes it, and it's
Well, I'd say a
actually
majority of the community.
Well, see,
Well-
and that's the problem with this stuff. Beauty. I might love this bench, but beauty's in the eye of the beholder. That's why government doesn't allow itself that luxury. Because while one loves it, another doesn't like it. We go for the middle road. We go
And
for
that's
the
okay.
traditional.
That's what freedom of speech is all about. Nobody has to agree with this. I mean, Steve Blair said that about the mural. He doesn't have to like it. That's his right. I'm not asking everybody to love this bench, but we do have freedom of speech and expression, and we have a right to display
Not
it
in the
on here.
public domain. You don't. You
Well,
don't.
actually,
Really?
we do.
Not in the public domain.
Not when we're agreeing to let you put something in, and we didn't let an artist go in and say, I want to express myself. That was not our understanding. Our understanding was a functional bench around a tree. We just don't get that luxury.
Okay.
Yes.
My name is Mary Schulten. I worked on the 2 murals that have mosaics on them. The one by Granite Street by the parking garage.
Right.